Max Kellerman, rumor on the street is you like this team and this player. How should Giants fans feel about Odell Beckham?
You always got to worry about Odell the way Golden State Warriors fans always got to worry about Steph Curry. His unique skills and talent, do things to the geometry of the field of play that other players can't. He can do things that create situations where the defense can't account for all the offensive possibilities.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm lost, though. Steph Curry doesn't do any. We're talking about off the field, though, with Odell Beckham, not the talent.
Well, I'm developing the point, Ma. Hold on. Right. So you have to worry about Odell because, like Steph Curry, he changes the geometry of the game and makes players around him better as a result. So do you have to worry about him? Do you have to hope that he's optimizing his talent? Yes, of course. And is there reason to be concerned based on his play when they needed him most in the playoffs last year? Yes, because like Steph Curry, in the biggest moments of his career so far, he's been a lesser version of himself. Also defined as a choke job, right? I mean, I don't say this based on who's my favorite player. I say this based on the events that occurred. So, yes, you need to be concerned. That's on the one hand, about everything Odell does. And if you see, he wasn't at practice and he could have been, yes. On the other hand, I always hate this idea of it's voluntary, but you really got to be there or we're going to give you a problem. Well, that's not voluntary. I mean, it's not. It's like, what was the scene from Office Space with the pieces of flair with Jennifer Aniston, right? And they're like, how many? We say the minimum is 15. She goes, right, I have 15 on. Well, what would you say about someone who only wants to do the minimum? In other words, the minimum's not really 15, jerks. Why don't you just tell me what I'm supposed to do? I get it. He's not kind of cooperating with the spirit of what everyone wants to see. You want to be at all the OTAs. No one wants to be at all the OTAs. Either make it mandatory or everyone shut up. He'll show up when he's supposed to show up.
The OTAs are not mandatory, as you pointed out, but the reason why they're important is because it speaks to where your priorities lie, and that is the question mark with Odell Beckham Jr. If you have somebody that has a resume that says that they're prioritizing winning, then you don't have that issue. We know Odell Beckham Jr. is going to show up on Sundays to catch the football. But how is he going to work in concert with the other receivers, with Eli Manning, and with what the Giants want to do to ensure that there are no distractions and everything is on the up and up as they move forward trying to capture another Super Bowl championship? When you look at Odell Beckham Jr., are you going to sit here and say that him choosing to go to Miami on his off day, the week of a playoff game against the Green Bay Packers, was not a distraction? It was all anybody was talking about leading up to the Packers game. So what happens? He goes at Lambeau Field, on the field, and he dropped about 3 or 4 passes. This is the dude with arguably the greatest hands in football, dropping passes. It's not something that we customarily saw from Odell Beckham Jr., but we saw it that particular day. We also saw a history where he could get a bit emotional, a bit cantankerous, because he's annoyed at some of the questions from the media. He's annoyed at some of the probing. He's annoyed at how judgmental people can get, etc., etc. All of these things play a role. He's not playing in Jacksonville. He's not playing in Utah or some small town where the media is not that, intense. But he's in New York City. He's in the Big Apple. And you've got to take all of these things into consideration. You've got teammates talking about him. You've got Jerry Reese talking about how he's got to grow up some. You had Eli Manning talking about him. You had McAdoo alluding to certain things. And now what happens is he got big-time money for an endorsement deal. He absolutely deserves it. I'm happy for him, no question. But let's just be mindful of the fact that what we're talking about here, and the reason why I think there's a cause for concern, is because usually when you get the money, you feel a bit more lax and loose. Think about the athletes that we talk about, Max. Think about some of the things that they say and do from time to time. If they were worried about their money, would those things be happening? Chances are no. But when you get paid before you do anything, it's a problem.
I'll say this. Wake me up when the playoffs come. If someone wants to make the point that, hey, they're not going to make the playoffs or performing in the playoffs starts in voluntary OTAs in preseason, okay, you can make that argument. But the issue is usually not Odell not performing.
No, we weren't talking about the OTAs.
It wasn't the playoffs, but usually it's everyone else.
No, nobody said anything about him not going to the OTAs. We understand this is voluntary. He's not mandatory. It's not mandatory. What we were talking about is whether you should be concerned about him because he got the money, and now going into this season with some of the distractions, is he going to be focused? Nobody's bringing up anything about the OTAs. We don't care about that.
We all know he's going to ball in the regular season. This is not an issue till a big game comes up. They need to get in the playoffs or else to take first place or else to win a playoff game. Let's see how he plays there because he choked in the last one.
Is why Johnny?